Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Kris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey everyone. Welcome back to the Spark Faith Show. I am Dr. Kris Sargent, and today we are going to talk about nobody told you this about fatigue. It is the number one thing that people usually come to me for. So there's a lot more to fatigue than what many of you might think, right? You're like, well, I just don't sleep well, so there it is. Well, that may be, but it often is really just the result of multiple demands competing for your body's resources. And last week we talked about regulation and regulating our resources and regulating downtime, right? So that we can recover. And again, this is going to be another one of those harder episodes because it's going to force you. I said, in the last episode, like, I don't do superficial very well. So we're going to dive a little deeper because you're going to have to look at some of the harder things in your life that you may or may not really want to look at in order to understand why you're not recovering well or why you are recovering well, or have you even thought about recovery at all, right? So what if you're not just low on energy? Right? What if your problem, or what you think might be a problem, isn't that you don't have enough energy, right? Like, oh, wait, what do you mean? Well, what if it is the fact that you're spending your energy in places that you don't know about, or that you don't really realize that you're spending your body energy in? So here's the thing. A lot of women assume, and this may be you, right? This may be you. What if you think that fatigue is you have low hormones or a bad thyroid? My thyroid's just terrible. My metabolism is terrible. And we talked about metabolism a couple of weeks ago, right? What if it's poor sleep? What if fatigue just means it's poor sleep? Or my favorite / not favorite is, oh, I'm just getting older. That one just bends my whole body the wrong direction. Because sometimes those things are true, right? We can do labs, we can figure that out. However, right, many of y'all are exhausted while your labs look normal, which is standard in traditional medicine, not in functional medicine. But why do they look normal and you're fatigued? Because even if I find most things normal, I usually find that there's some things that are off, right? There's usually some sort of deficiency. There's usually something else going on in your body that you may not even realize is happening. You may not even really have any symptoms, or the symptoms that you haven't quite connected to what's happening actually in your body, right? Because fatigue isn't just physical. So I want to introduce an idea that might change the way you think about energy. Because energy isn't something that we just produce, right? We do, right? Our little mitochondria, our little powerhouses of the cell are in there doing their thing, just getting at it, right? But what if you think about energy as something that you spend? So we produce it, but we also spend it somewhere. And it's not unlimited, right? And here's the thing, a lot of us are overspending, right? And I don't just mean Amazon showing up at your door every day. That's my house right now, as I'm so particularly through getting through the wedding, which is great. So, but a lot of us are spending it all day long without realizing it. And we're spending it in places we didn't even realize we were spending it. Maybe your kids are spending Amazon and you didn't realize it. Yeah, that's the thing. We may not even know what's happening. So fatigue is not just one thing, right? It's not just a lack of energy, but fatigue can come from a lot of different places. And that's right, physical. We talked a little bit about this before, right? That poor sleep, maybe you have some kind of gut issue that's kind of running in the background, and maybe you don't really have any symptoms, but there's something there and you don't even realize it. Maybe there's some inflammation that you're not aware of, because inflammation doesn't just show up as joint pain. We talked about that a few visits ago, or a few episodes ago too, right? Inflammation is not just joint pain and headaches. It's a whole host of symptoms and stuff that you don't even know is going on behind the scenes. Like we talked about interoception, right? It's your body sensing and signaling, and it's stuff that's running in the background that you are not even conscious of. So inflammation, and then recovery demands, like we talked about last week, right? That's all of that recovery deficit can create fatigue. What about mental fatigue? We talked about this a little bit under the regulation piece, right? Decision making. But what about problem solving, right? If you're constantly having to be the person who's figuring out the chessboard of your life every single day, what about focus and concentration? Being in school, one of the things that I had to learn how to do all over again a couple of years ago, well, now it's 2.5 years ago, is how to concentrate for more than 15 minutes at a time. And for all of my favorite ADD, ADHD people, um, I'm part of your crew because it was really hard. And I made a choice to go to seminary. So I had to figure out, how can I sit still and learn how to concentrate and read and focus for more than 15 minutes at a time, because I got 20 hours of reading every week, folks. Right? So I got to figure out how to make that happen, and then learn, because learning is also part of mental fatigue. How do I learn in little bits and spurts so that stuff can actually stay in there? What about emotional fatigue? Could be bad relationships. What about things that we do to our own self in terms of emotional fatigue, like worry? Without my faith, there's so many things I could be worried about. Or future pacing, right? Creating anxiety about things that have not even happened yet. And yet you're already like living 4 or 5 or 6 days ahead. And so like you're creating this anxious spin on things that haven't even happened instead of staying in the present. Caregiving, right? Y'all know I took care of my mom for 5 years in my home, and caregiving is an emotional experience. So I'm going to hand it to all y'all who are taking care of your parents on one side and kids on the other. It's a lot. Grief, right? We all have to manage things that have happened, situations, deaths, all of those pieces that we have as grief. And that's an emotion that none of us like to really talk about. And it's not talked about very well in this country at all, I learned. We don't do grief in this country. We pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and keep going, right? Like that's not real. And that creates its own emotional fatigue. So, what about conflict? So that kind of emotional fatigue, first of all, get a therapist, right? I can coach you through a lot of things, and you need a therapist to work through those conflicts, resolving conflict, and working through that emotional stuff that you've never worked through before. Uh, yeah, I'm just going to land on that for a moment. What about social fatigue, right? My kids are like, yeah, my social battery is empty. Yeah, right? Constant interaction, people pleasing, relational demands. That's social fatigue. Like there is a need for silence and stillness, right? The Bible commands us, like, be still and know that I am God. Because we are not God and we may try to play God, and yet that's not our position at all, right? So, social fatigue, make sure you take some downtime, understand what it feels like when your social battery is empty. And y'all, this is real too. Spiritual fatigue, right? And we don't always understand what God is doing in our life. And that can be really discouraging at sometimes. Um, we can have a lot of church hurt, and that can be discouraging. And imperfect people are everywhere. We're all one of them. And church hurt happens because of the imperfect people in the church, not because of God. God is always there for us, for us, for us. But spiritual fatigue is a disconnection, right? And trying to carry everything by ourselves. And we're not designed to do that, right? We're not designed to do that at all. Jesus says his load is light. And when we can allow trust in the Holy Spirit to take care of things for us, then our burdens, we're not carrying those by ourselves. And that helps that spiritual fatigue. So the challenge is that sometimes we're moving so fast that we can't even name which one is really the culprit, right? The challenge is that these all can feel very similar. And like you don't just wake up one morning and you're like, "Oh, I'm really experiencing decision fatigue right now." Right? You think like, "I'm tired." That's what you're thinking, right? Like, "I'm just tired and I like my nice warm bed." Um, but fatigue is not always a lack of energy. Sometimes it's just the accumulated cost of carrying too much for too long, right? And I said this in our last episode. But here's the thing, right? Our brain is super expensive. And I know I talked about this several episodes ago, right? However, this decision fatigue, spiritual, mental, emotional, like all of those things run through our brain, along with all the things that are running in the background. So this is often overlooked, but your brain represents only a small percentage of your body weight. It's about 12, your head is about 12 pounds. Crazy, right? Um, it's a bowling ball on a stick, right? However, your brain uses a tremendous amount of energy from your body. And even when you're sitting still, right? You're still like, your brain is busy. It filters information coming in from all of your senses, right? Your eyes, your ears, your nose, mouth, right? Touch. It's filtering all of that external information, but it's also filtering all the internal information, interoception, right? It's filtering all of that information. In the background, your brain is solving problems, right? Like all the apps running on your phone or your computer. It's still doing all those things while filtering. It's also predicting outcomes, right? We talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago about the predictive nature of our brain. And when we're moving so fast, your brain is predicting faster and faster and faster, and it's probably inaccurate. So, again, we have to figure out how to become more present for our own energy to to maintain energy regulation. Your brain is also monitoring your entire environment, right? Who's coming and going, right? Cooper took a shower and went into his room. He's downstairs. My other daughter is doing this. She's supposed to be here. Like, we're monitoring what's happening all the time. So your brain never really clocks out, even when you sleep, right? Your brain actually turns on different parts to recover, to assess damage, right? It is like the auto body shop, right? You take your car in, they assess all the damage in, like, under the hood, right? On the body, all the places. And your brain is doing that when you sleep. So your brain really never really truly just clocks out. Um, we do get a really cool flush of cerebrospinal fluid. I don't know if you knew that, but it actually can flush out at night if you get good enough sleep. So that can take away a lot of, like, the toxins that can accumulate in your brain. But that's about sleep. It's about recovery. So, you know, in seminary, I might spend an afternoon sitting in a chair reading theology. Physically, really demanding, right? I'm just sitting, underlining, highlighting. I'm just sitting, but mentally extremely demanding. And the cool thing, right? I have an Oura ring. The cool thing is you can see that stress on a graph with an Oura ring. I don't sell Oura rings, but I'm just letting you know. And I have literally sat for an afternoon reading and been in the engaged and stressed zone because my brain is what's working, even though I'm physically just sitting there. And I'm tired by the end of the day, right? Like, my brain is tired just from doing that, even though I didn't really move much during the afternoon. Yes, I went to the gym. Yes, I did all those things, but really, right? I didn't do that much. I just read 150 pages. So why? And it's really like all this thinking and remembering and putting in information requires energy. So thinking is metabolically expensive. And we talked about metabolism 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago. So thinking about your metabolism from a very different perspective, your brain is very metabolically expensive. And here's some other energy thieves, if you will, that nobody really talks about. We know about the brain, right? But the decision fatigue, okay? If you haven't really thought about it, haven't really acknowledged it maybe, but we make hundreds of thousands actually, of little teeny decisions every day. What am I going to eat? And that could play, depending on where you're at in your food journey, right? That can take a lot of time and energy just in your brain. Decision fatigue. Family decisions, particularly if you've got little ones, you're making all the decisions for them, right? If you've got big ones like I do, then you're helping them walk through how to make decisions and what decisions to make, not telling them anymore. What about finances? Do you have to make financial decisions? Maybe we're running a little low this month, right? Where are we going to get blah, blah, X amount of dollars to pay for X amount of things that we need to do that with? Finances can create a lot of decision fatigue. Schedules. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Schedules are like playing Tetris, right? Moving everybody around, making sure everybody gets picked up, everybody gets to the places where they need to go, and you also got to work on time, right? So, what about your health decisions? Are you making those decisions? Or are you putting those on the back burner? And work decisions, right? You go to work, and then you've got a whole other host of the same kind of demands that you have in your family. Does your team need to be managed more? Does your boss need something that you're not aware of? Is your boss telling you he needs more from you, right? Is your team telling you they can't do their job because they don't have X, Y, and Z? You're going to have to make those decisions. Every single decision costs something, right? These are all open loops, and your brain likes to close them. It doesn't do well with a whole bunch of uncertainty. And so unfinished tasks require ongoing attention. And we talked about multitasking a while ago, but this whole multitasking is you start something, you start something, you start something, you start something, you start something. And really, if you had just finished the one thing and then went to the next thing and finished it, and then went to the next thing and finished it, you wouldn't leave your day with two or three things that were started and not completed. You'd have three completed things that you could pick up the other two on the next day, right? Unanswered emails, clutter. Right now, since we've just moved over the last 6 weeks, and now my fiance is starting his moving in process um, and finishing it. Now, husband, yes. Um, but there's clutter, right? And that also creates a demand. Unfinished projects, and that's again just not finishing things. What about difficult conversations that you really don't want to have, right? Those difficult conversations are an unfinished task, and it's running in the background, right? I really need to have this conversation about blah, 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 blah. Things you can do for that unfinished conversation or difficult conversations to start to journal them out and see where they can go. And then you have at least an idea of where it can go before you have it, right? And then just unresolved decisions, things that you know you need to make a decision about. Where are you going to go on your vacation this year? Do you need a new car? Like some of those are big things. Some of the smaller things are like, oof, I need a meal prep, right? And you just haven't resolved that you're going to do this thing for yourself and to really, take it seriously that your health is important. So it's kind of like having like 50 browser tabs open all the time. Your computer is going to work, but it's not efficient, right? You get the little flashy thing or the thing bops down and says, "Hey, your RAM is full." Like, yeah, it probably is. Right? So it's not going to be able to work as efficiently when you have all those tabs open. So let me throw something out there. Like, how many tabs are open in your brain right now? I know a couple of weeks ago when I was planning the wedding, I had a million tabs open and not very efficient. Not very efficient at all. I had to slow down and figure out what was important, what really needed to happen next, right? But here's the thing, y'all, and I know that so many of you are carrying a far bigger mental load than you realize, right? I know. And it's really difficult and it's not a great place to be. And that can create an emotional load that's going to have a physical cost. And so if you're carrying that worry, grief, guilt, responsibility, unresolved, a whole bunch of unresolved stuff, ultimately, just because you can't see it, you underestimate its impact. But that emotional energy is still real energy. And the body is going to respond to emotional experiences physiologically, right? Your thoughts affect your physiology. Your relationships affect your physiology. Your mental and emotional world, your spiritual world affects your physiology. So think about how you feel after a difficult conversation or a family conflict or receiving bad news, right? You didn't just run a marathon, but you feel like it, right? You feel like you just got run over by a truck, right? You're pretty drained. But that's emotional work. And that emotional work really requires a lot of energetic resources. And we don't always give credence to to that, right? We don't realize how much energy that is draining from us. So your body experiences way more than physical labor as work, right? Mental, emotional, we just talked about all that. So your body experiences more than physical labor, like physicality, as work. And your attention, right? This is a metabolic resource. It can be. And it's really it's one of the biggest hidden energy leaks in modern life because we protect our money, our schedules, our calories, but few people really protect their attention. And, how many notifications do you get on your phone? How many emails are you getting? Text, social media, news, constant interruptions. These things require our brain to shift gears every time we see them. Like notifications are off on my phone. I don't want them. I have time where I go to my emails, my text. Certain people can notify me, right? Like you can set that up. I don't do a lot of social media. I just don't have a ton of time to do that. And I don't want to get sucked into that rabbit hole of that attention energy drain, right? And because see, here's every time you shift, right? Okay, I'm just going to scroll for a few minutes and then you get back to work and then you're like, oh, and then every time we shift gears, it requires energy. So, y'all, y'all aren't always really tired because you're dealing with too much. You're tired because your attention is being pulled in so many directions, right? I get it. I know, right? Y'all know a little bit about my life and stuff. And there are days that I feel like I like my head is on swivel, right? It's just going round and round, and I don't even know where to stop for my attention. And it's exhausting. And we're draining our resources when we do that. Um, so where your attention goes, your energy will follow. Where your attention goes, your energy will follow. So this is where our physiology can meet some wisdom. If you will take a moment, right? You may think that energy management means more caffeine, more motivation, more discipline, more nicotine, whatever that thing is. But here's the thing about stewardship. Stewardship includes learning where your energy is going and where does it need to go. And sometimes the answer isn't creating more energy or having another cup of coffee. Sometimes the answer is reducing unnecessary energy drains because stewardship really looks like closing those open loops, right? All those unfinished projects, one a month, just start checking them off, right? It requires setting some boundaries. It requires simplifying decisions. Like I know I can definitely be the as complicated as possible queen, making things really difficult. So like when I realize that I'm like spinning into something that really, okay, this is a simple decision. This does not need to be this complicated. Just a clue for me, like, okay, I'm headed down a rabbit trail that I don't need to go down. And that helps me protect my attention. It creates margin and it allows me to spend some time with God that really is going to undergird all of these other things. So, because energy is a resource, right? Energy is a resource, and every resource that we have is meant to be stewarded. Oh, I know, right? Like we steward our money, we steward the things that God has given us, we take care of our homes, we take care of our children, we take care of all the blessings in our life and things sometimes that we don't even want to take care of, but we do anyway. However, we're not necessarily taking care of the one resource that we need to take care of all those other things. And so that resource of energy must also be stewarded. So stewardship isn't about squeezing more out of, right? It's not about squeezing more productivity out of yourself. It's really about directing your energy towards what matters the most, right? We talked about fatigue really different today, and you're not a failure. This is not a motivation problem. But as a result of so many competing demands on your body and your mind, right? That's what's creating some of this. So next week, we're going to talk about if energy is limited, how do we increase our capacity? Not just muscles, not just exercise, but really some actual capacity. So fatigue is not always about the lack of energy production. It's often the result of energy expenditure that's gone unnoticed, right? Mental, emotional, unfinished decisions, constant demands on our attention, and understanding where energy is being spent is the first step towards stewarding it really well. I love you guys. Let's renew our health. Let's do it rooted in truth and restored by grace. I love you guys. See you next week. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drkrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Kris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.